Caitlin Clark had an interesting offer from Ice Cube. Never thought I would say that sentence, but Ice Cube offered Iowa superstar Caitlin Clark $5 million to play in his Big 3 basketball league. The question today, via Rich Eisen show, is whether or not Caitlin Clark should take the deal. Now, if you're not familiar with the Big 3, this league, it's a 3-on-3 basketball league started by Ice Cube. They play 10 weeks. 8 weeks is the regular season, and then they play the playoffs. All in total is 10 weeks. So Caitlin Clark, as far as I know, would be possibly making $5 million in 10 weeks if she chose to join the Big 3 after she finishes the Women's March Madness tournament right now happening. Why would you not do this if you're Caitlin Clark? This is the best possible situation. Now, if you're also wondering, well, how much money can she make in the WNBA? The WNBA's highest paid player makes $250,000 a year and signed a 2-year, $500,000 contract. So, Caitlin Clark could make $5 million in 10 weeks, or she can make $5 million in 10 years with the WNBA. Now, you may say, James, Caitlin Clark can probably make $5 million in endorsements and sponsorships. Yeah, she could. And she can also do that while she plays in the Big 3. So you're like the amount of money she could make for this. And if you think about the game itself, the Big 3 is probably the best place for her to go, because 3-on-3 is kind of like a more condensed version of the game. It's probably less taxing. And for her, the way she plays, her shooting ability and all that, it seems like this would be a perfect league for her to join. And it's not too crazy to think about her playing in this league and then going to the WNBA. WNBA players already play overseas in between the WNBA seasons. So I think it's a no-brainer. I think it's a great decision. I think Caitlin Clark should do it. I would honestly be shocked if she doesn't do it, unless there's all kind of stuff inside of the contract where she has to do more than just play the games. But if you're talking about 10 weeks with that amount of money to then go play, if she, not that she needs to boost her draft stock, but if she goes into the Big 3 and has a good performance or dominates or whatever, then it's a win-win for everybody. It's a win-win for her brand. I think it'd be great for women's basketball. I think women's college basketball, and then the Big 3 being a bridge of sorts to the WNBA or a league for them to play in afterwards, is a huge win for the Big 3 as well. So I hope she does it. But we are here. Casey Wasserman will tell us what he thinks with his very patriotic kicks.
So you mentioned in our conversation the Caitlin Clark deal that's on the table from Cube for the Big 3, $5 million for her to do that. Is there a way for her to do that and the WNBA?
Yes.
Do you think?
Practically, probably.
Right.
So Ice Cube has talked about this. So they are willing. Now Caitlin Clark is still playing basketball in college. So they can only do so much negotiating and talk so much about this while she's still playing. But he has mentioned that he's willing to move games around her schedule or move games around whatever city she's in. So again, it's not a year-long commitment. We're talking about 8 to 10 weeks. So the Big 3 is willing to kind of help her out with doing this. So if she wants to play in the WNBA as fast as possible, I think this can still be possible to play in the Big 3 first and make $5 million.
What I would say is she's a bit of a unicorn, so I'm sure she can make $5 million off the court as part of the WNBA from endorsements.
She can do that.
I do believe she's that big an athlete and that big.
Yeah, but if she can, then she can do that while she's playing in the Big 3 too. So why make $5 million in endorsements and $250,000 in salary when you can make $5 million in endorsements and $5 million in salary?
A star right now. And I think what she will embrace is she has ability to elevate the WNBA in a way maybe no athlete ever has. For as incredible as some of these WNBA players in the first 25 years have been, and is Diana Taurasi the greatest women's basketball player ever, Caitlin Clark at this moment in time, if Diana Taurasi was Caitlin Clark, it would be Diana Taurasi today. But Caitlin Clark today, given what has happened in the last 5 or 6 years around women's sports and the energy and the momentum, she can transform that league. And the economics of that and the reputational benefit of that and the legacy part of that is going to be actually incredibly powerful. And I think she will embrace that and not just
total non-change. That doesn't change though. Just 10 weeks. She can still transform the WNBA. She can still boost the WNBA. She can still play in the WNBA. All it is we're talking about less than 3 months for $5 million. as far as women's college basketball right now, this is probably the golden era because there's so many like good characters and storylines and narratives, and people like watching these players and they know who they are, and a lot of them return to school, which is obviously a big deal because then you can watch them again. And it's kind of like what college basketball was like 20 years ago, when JJ Redick and players like that played at Duke for 3-4 years, and you understood who they were and you watched them play and you saw the rivalries and the storylines, and it was exciting. College basketball on the men's side doesn't happen anymore because of you go in there for a year and then you're gone, and there's 5 new players every year. So the women's game has kind of turned into the truest version of college basketball, and that's why I think you have the Angel Reeses and the Cameron Brinks and the Caitlin Clarks, where people like watching these players play. They know who they are. The South Carolina storyline with them being undefeated and just bulldozing everybody. So Caitlin being able to do this and then going to the WNBA with all that group of, like I said, the Cameron Brinks and the Angel Reese and all those players all going to the WNBA at the same time is huge for the league. All this does, her joining the Big Three, is boosts women's basketball. And this also is a perfect storm with the Olympics coming up. Best case scenario would be if she joins the Big Three, then she goes to Paris and plays in the Olympics and goes to the WNBA. That would be the best case scenario for women's sports. So I'm hoping she takes every advantage of it, and I hope other huge names in women's college basketball do this as well.
Chase $5 million for the Big Three. I give them credit for making the offer because what it really is pointing out is Caitlin Clark's making more money as playing at University of Iowa than she's going to make as a rookie in the WNBA.
She is? I mean, you obviously are intimately knowledgeable of these figures in this world, so...
I mean, absolutely. Now, the endorsements and some of the other things will sort of make up a lot of that, but absolutely. It's why we represent Brittany Griner. It's why they all go off to go play in some of these other countries, in China not anymore,
exactly.
But Russia not anymore, but Turkey and some of these other countries where women go play basketball is because the opportunity. And I think one of the things that the NBA deserves credit for is they've continued to invest in the WNBA. And I think you're at a turning point where the economics of the WNBA are going to be remarkable.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was
I agree.
misconstruing. Yes, I understand she's making more NIL at Iowa than she would make salary with the WNBA. But,
correct.
But she could make more money as a WNBA player than she is currently at Iowa? Do you think, in terms of off the court?
I think she might have more restrictions to the WNBA than she.
Yeah, I think so. I was about to say, I think she'd probably make less than she's making right now. I mean, where she plays is a non-issue. If she plays in the Big Three, or she plays at Iowa, or she plays in the WNBA, her star power is going to be the same. The inversion of the league to the player in women's sports, it's all driven by the player. Obviously, in like the players in the NFL need the NFL. Players in the NBA need the NBA. They can't go play in an independent basketball league and be the same star. They can't go play in the USFL and be the same star. The women's game is different because it's driven by these narratives and driven by the audience liking to watch these individual players. So if Caitlin Clark went and played the Big Three, she would be just as big of a star if she went and played the WNBA. If she plays at Iowa, she's just as big of a star at Iowa that she would be at any other college or the WNBA. So it's driven by the star power.
She made Iowa. I mean, it'll be interesting,
No kidding.
Yeah, she won't look.
Because there's official sponsors and things of that nature.
And look, let's be honest about NIL. NIL, as an endorsement, there's economic rationale for a company to spend that. Some of the NIL money is not based on rational economics, on irrational excitement about University of Iowa.
Yeah, it's strictly about the boosters and how much they like their team and how much they like their college. So it is an irrational. It's not. NIL is not a business decision. That is for sure. Giving an 18-year-old millions of dollars to go play at your school without any understanding of there is no ROI for most of it, at least. So yeah, it's an untapped, unlimited amount of funds for these players.
For her. And so it's an interesting, switch to flip for her when she goes from being an amateur getting money for whatever to a professional getting money for very specific purposes. And, she's got to have a lot more obligations on her time.
Just because I want to have your back, when you say irrational, you're not saying people are irrational for loving Iowa. You mean rabid. You mean rabid love for...
Irrational... No, I mean, Rich, what's going on here, pal? You're not listening to my man Casey? It's an irrational investment because there's no ROI, there's no return. It's just giving money as a fan to support your school. That's all. It is completely irrational.
Iowa Hawkeye program.
Non-economic spending for players. How about that?
I don't want to get you in trouble with the nation's heartland,
no,
sir.
I think I was great.
I know that.
We enjoy playing. We enjoy going there in the Big Ten, right? I mean, come on, we're ready.
We're
ready.
You've been in the Big Ten for 2 seconds.
I don't even think we're in yet, actually. I mean, I don't know when our first game. I think football's probably.
It's because the Pac-12 is still the Pac. Well, but the Pac-12 is
in the tournament. Correct.
They play in the tournament.
Correct. You had to rub that in. Both of our teams aren't there, so
I understand that. So Caitlin Clark, because when I was there. At the combine in late February is when she it was apparent that she was going to be a WNBA player, and that they're going to get her because they're in Indianapolis. They've got the first overall pick. People were jammed. They were psyched. They were fired up. They were talking about it.
It's
in bars and stuff like that.
It's remarkable, and she is. The talent in the women's game has changed dramatically. By the way, the women's game is. You might be able to name more stars in the women's game today than you could in the men's game.
You can, 100%, and that's exactly what I was saying. Is that it's kind of it's flip flopped. Like even the way they play is different. You know, it's completely different. The women's game in college basketball is much more, I think, appealing to the masses. To watch college basketball on the men's side of things, you have to be kind of like a serious fan. You can't just casually watch a team once and know who's on that team. Like even UConn. UConn is the defending national champions. UConn has been destroying people in the tournament this year. I think they're winning by an average of like 28 points a game. I guarantee you the casual fan can name way more players on LSU's women's team than they can UConn's men's team. And both teams obviously won their national championships in their respective sports. You know, it is what it is now. There is a shift, and I think it is because of the players in the men's side of things leaving school and you know how fast they rotate in and out of rosters and go to the NBA and whatnot. So it is a change. It is a shift for sure, and you know, good for the women's game. And I think now because of the characters, Angel Reese is included in this too, where she can probably make an enormous amount of money if she went to the Big Three or if she had an offer like this instead of the WNBA. This puts a lot of pressure on the WNBA because the WNBA now is absorbing all of these players and all of these storylines and all of these narratives that should boost their league. And they already have great characters and great teams and great narratives in their league right now. I mean, like the Las Vegas Aces, Kelsey Plum and all of them, what they've done for the sport. But now they have to figure out how to compensate these players because you cannot have Ice Cube offering $5 million for 10 weeks. And then the other offer is, well, we'll give you $200,000 a year, but think of the legacy building you can do in the WNBA. At some point, it doesn't matter as much. At some point, $5 million for 10 weeks is $5 million for 10 weeks. You know, so it does put pressure on the WNBA and I guess the NBA to figure out, okay, how can we possibly compete with this? What do we do for these players? How do we do this to where the Big Three doesn't just turn into basically the new pros for some of these like high profile women basketball players?
Hey man, if I was given a choice of watching South Carolina LSU, or in women's compared to obviously a diehard rivalry right now in men's, I would choose the women's game right now. I agree. I would absolutely want to watch. I can't wait to see. I hope they play each other again. I would. My daughter, after she won, I should say, Taylor won her All-Star competition. Yes, her tournament. We went home and watched Caitlin Clark's first round game, and even her first quarter, she didn't do very well. No. So
it would be interesting to see if they were going head to head. Like if you could possibly do this, where you had UConn versus Purdue in the men's, and then you had LSU versus South Carolina, both finals going simultaneously on the same style of network. It's one thing if one's on cable, one's on streaming, but everything's the same, and you had those two going. I think LSU South Carolina, the viewership, it'd be a lot. It'd be way more than people would expect.
But think about, Kiki Rice and Angel Reese and Paige Becker. They're superstars, and if they all end up, the women's Final Four this year could be, in some ways, depends on who in the men, bigger than the men's tournament.
Yeah, I agree.
That's the Rich Eisen.
Me and Casey Wasserman are just a couple of allies. We really see what's going on. But I think Kaylin should 100% take the $5 million offer. I think it'd be great to see. I think it'd be great to see just for the big three. The big three, I like the idea of the league. I really do. And Ice Cube, I know, has tried to work with the NBA. And of course, the NBA is not going to let that happen. But, I this year, I thought the All-Star game for the NBA was so bad. This is what they should do. They should have taken the big three, and whether it's in conjunction with the big three or whatever, but do a 3-on-3 tournament with the All-Stars. That's what they should do. And that really should probably be what the in-season tournament is like a 3-on-3 style kind of thing. The All-Star game is a total mess. So if they had, if you have 15 All-Stars or whatever, however many you do, let's say you have 18 All-Stars, and you do, you have a draft, like the 2 highest vote-getting All-Stars draft 3-on-3 teams, and you run a tournament, like a 2-day tournament over All-Star weekend. Like I said, it's not that taxing. Like 3-on-3 basketball is not as taxing as a full game or anything like that. So hopefully this works. Competition's always good. I think the NBA and the WNBA could use a little competition to get things right. So I hope Kaylin accepts the offer. Be interesting to see. 10 weeks for $5 million. That is some serious coin. Let me know in the comments below. Are you a fan of women's college basketball? What do you think Kaylin would do? What would you do? Would you go play in the Big Three for $5 million, or would you go to the WNBA? Thank you for watching. This is being released on Easter Sunday. Happy Easter. Much appreciated. Enjoy your holiday. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.